So to begin with, so this equation directly comes from your stress diagram. If you take the equilibrium of compressive force and tensile force, you get this equation. I hope everyone is very clear with this one. Anytime, whenever you have to find out neutral axis, actual depth of neutral axis, it always comes from the equilibrium of forces, internal forces developed in concrete and steel that you have to take. Okay, so from that you got this one. But to begin with, we do not know whether it is under reinforced section or over reinforced section. What are the stress values of in the tensile steel or in the compression steel? So we are assuming that tensile steel also yielded. Yielded means your yield stress value will be 0.87 Fy. Actually, Fy is the yield stress, but in limit state method, we always reduce the yield stress by partial safety factor per steel. So it becomes Fy divided by 1.15 becomes 0.87 Fy, right? So you are substituting all this thing and find out the value of Xu, and Xu is coming out to be 346.34. And obviously your Xu limit, Xu max is 264, Xu is only, Xu is 346, that means it is exceeded, so it is becoming over reinforced section. In a over reinforced section, your FST will be less than 0.87 Fy, because in over reinforced section it will not yield, only concrete will fail. Okay, so next step, because the over reinforcement it's not correct like that, then approximate solution is X is equal to Xc limit, because we always restrict up to balanced section only. We will not go beyond balanced section. So now determination of, because your Xc has become Xc limit, so Mu also will become Mu limit. Now here you have 0.36 FCK Xc limit being the D minus 0.4 to Xc limit, or you also can directly write, if you know Fe415, it is 0.138 FCK B D square for this term. And this value, this equation is given in your code also. Okay, you can see, refer page number 96, you will have this equation in a different form. They must have taken D outside and all this thing, but eventually it is the same equation. Plus for the compression steel, you have FSC into ASC into D minus D dash, right? Now how to find out FSC? FSC comes from your, you have to find out the strain value. Strain value from FC, because we are for the steel Fe415 steel or Fe500 steel or Fe250 steel, from figure 23A or B, for example here, from figure 23A, like 1768. You know, from page number 70 or 68, here, this is the stress strain curve for the mild steel or Fe250 steel. And this is for Fe, this is Fy divided by Fe4, this is for cold work bar. If 500 means it is Fy is 500, it is 450 means 415, 550 means 550, whatever. So if you know the strain value, corresponding stress value, you can find it out. So that is why first you have to find out strain. Now, how will you find out the strain value? You know, from strain diagram, this is your Xc max, because your Xc has become Xc max. Okay, this is the critical depth of neutral axis. At this point, you have 0.0035 as a strain. Now, at a distance of D dash, where the compression reinforcements are placed, that strain is called epsilon SC. Okay, so this distance will be Xu max minus D dash. Okay, this is, so epsilon SC for Xu max, you have 0.0035 strain. Now you want to find out what is this strain. So epsilon SC will be Xu max minus D dash. So you are finding out epsilon SC, so you take this one on the other side. So what you get is Xc max minus D dash. So Xc max by Xc max 1 minus D dash by Xc max is here. Okay. So you find out this value, and what we have found out here is 0.00266. Okay, 0.00266. If you do the calculation, you are getting 0.00266. 1 second, there is some, seems to be some, this is not correct. You got to work it out. You work it out and find what is the value you are getting. I have written 2 different values. That's not correct. Probably I copied and not edited. One of you work it out and let me know.
Zero point 00283 says.
Okay, so this is the value. Okay, 00283. That's why I told now I can also make error. So unless you go through the step, you will not know. So this is not there. So 00283 or 4, whatever. Okay, now what you do is you can go to the figure. So here I am taking correct only epsilon SE 0.00284. So if you go to this figure, I'm not sure. Yeah.
By using that graph at table 6.1.
Table 6 point. Yeah, you can do. You can use that table where stress and strain are given, or you can use this chart. Both you can use. Okay, both are one and the same. So now you know how to find out FSC.
I know, sir. That.
Yeah. No, you told you have doubt in FSC. That's why I'm asking. What is the doubt?
By using this graph at the table, I have doubt on that one.
Using the table 6.1, you have doubt, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will see that table. 1 second. See, remember, you cannot use this one. This D dash by D you cannot use. Although some book says you can use D dash by D dash, but code SP16 says for analysis purpose you should not use this. Okay, this is used only for design, but you can take from here. Is that understood, Bhaskar?
Okay.
Your SP16 very clearly says this value is only for the design of doubly reinforced beam, not for analysis of doubly reinforced beam. So many people in many books they have taken D dash by D and then calculated FS value. It may come approximately same. For example, here also, what is the D dash value you have in this problem? How much was the D dash?
50, sir.
50, and the D was 550. Yeah.
550.
So if you calculate, it is coming out to be 0.09 or something like that. What was the value we get?
0.09.
0.9, right? So for 0.1 it is 353 here. Oh, 1 second. For 0.1 it is 353. For 0.15 it is 342. So you can easily calculate for 0.09. Okay, so it will be, because it is as you increase the value, your value is reducing. You have to find out 353 minus the difference is 11 divided by the difference between this is let us say 15 and 10. This is 5, and you got 0.09, right? Oh, sorry. You have to interpolate between these two values. Sorry. You have 0.09 something. So it will be anywhere between these two values, 353 and 355. So it can be anywhere between these two value only, right? But your SP16 very clearly says this cannot be, this table cannot be used for analysis purpose. You can use only for design purpose. Is that clear?
Okay.
But you can use this one. For example, if your strain you got this 0.00284 or something like that, so it will be slightly more than 351. Okay, it will be slightly more than 351. That's the point. Okay. Okay. Any other doubt? Anybody having? Anybody else have any doubt?
So design problem.
Design of doubly reinforced beam.
Last problem.
Okay.
15.
Okay. Here, what do you want me to repeat? Let me know.
Design problem.
So this is a design problem only. So here.
So in that question,
Hmm.
mention moderate exposure condition.
Yeah, it is given moderate exposure condition. Yes.
For that we choose 20 mm bar, 30 mm bar, 20 mm bars, I think.
Yeah, that okay, that's fine. Yeah, 20 mm bar we have chosen, right?
But we have to design only take 120 mm bars and 32 mm bars only.
Yeah, that is only we are see for moderate exposure covers nominal covers 30 mm, right, from table 16, and we have assumed stirrups diameter 8, and of the main diameter we have taken 20/2 as 48 millimeter, right? Now this is only assumption we have assumed, right? So what you can do is this instead of 20, because we will not know from beforehand what reinforcement we are going to use. So even if you provide 32, so there is a difference of 6 mm, right? That will be 32/2 is 16. So instead of 48, you will have 54 mm, right? That is the only difference. But this will not make much difference to your design, because after all your design is trial and error process, right? So you can, if you want, you can provide 20 mm diameter bar also. For example, we got total amount of reinforcement AST required was 1772. That we got that, right? If you see here. So in this we got 1772, I think. Yeah, 1772. So 1772 divided by 314. How much? Approximately 6, 5 point something, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So you can provide 6 bars. How will you provide 6 bars? You have to provide like this 3 bars here, 3 on top of this, right? But if you provide, what will happen is your effective depth will change from here to, you have to find out the centroid of this, effective depth will reduce. So again you have to do the recalculation. So we can approximately say that this design is okay. Okay, instead of 20 mm, you are providing 32. That is fine. You will not have much difference. Okay. So many people, they will leave it with this only AST. They will leave it with along with this answer only. This much AST should be provided, but they will not provide this reinforcement and cover all those things. So it is only you should know the process correctly. After that, fine tuning these numbers and initial assumption and all, we can do it later on. That is not required as of now for your, as far as your academic course is concerned. But when you go for practice, you will do all those things. Is that clear? But it is not a big mistake. Okay, no? So you don't worry so much if you are or what you do, you use 20 mm diameter bar and provide like this one and leave it like that. Don't need to change again, find out D and again do the whole thing, because you will not have much time. Is that clear, Bhaskar?
Okay.
Tanusa?
Yeah.
You had some problem in the design. What was that?
It was the same, only AC, sir. By 1000.
Diameter, huh?
No, sir.
Okay. So anybody has any other doubt? Please let me know.
Sir, one more.
Huh.
Sir, here we design using 32 mm bars 2 and 20 mm bars 1 bar.
Yeah.
Or suppose we have to use 25 mm bars 2 and 32 1. How to arrange that?
Actually, you will
Area,
not. You will not.
area must 1786 will be come, sir.
Yeah, that is okay. But the problem is, in general, whenever you provide the reinforcement with respect to the vertical central axis, your reinforcement should be symmetrical. So if you are getting two number of 25 plus one number of 32,
32.
yeah, you will provide two number of 25 here and one number of, but it is not ideally recommended because normally only corner bars will have a larger diameter, not the middle one. Is that clear? Because this one, when you put the stirrups, this you can only tie it along with this one. But if you have a corner bar, it can be tied along with in both perpendicular sides. Okay, na? So your stability is more. That is why this kind of thing is avoided in practice. You will have a bigger diameter at corners and smaller diameter in the middle. Is that clear?
Okay.
Okay. Any other question? Anybody?
The stirrup diameter.
Stirrups diameter?
We should take, sir.
Actually, I showed you yesterday one video, right? In that, if you see, let us say this is your farm work. Farm work means you are understanding that before placing the concrete, you have to provide farm work with shuttering and all, right? Let us say this is a beam you are going to cast, right? Now, you will not keep your reinforcement at the bottom, right? There should be cover to the reinforcement. Is that clear? Is that understood?
Sir.
Tell me. You understood, na? So you let us say this is your reinforcement gauge. Your reinforcement gauge will be like this. Bottom some rods, top some rods there. Now you are going to place this beam only on this form work, but you will keep a cover block at the bottom. It is if you clear cover is nominal cover is 30 mm, you will have this block. This block will be this much size. Like for example, 2-inch. There's a particular dimension. I forgot the dimension. So it will be 2-inch by 2-inch or 50 mm by 50 mm by the required cover 30 mm or 25 mm. This is one concrete block will be made. On top of this concrete block, this reinforcement will be made. Now when you do that, is your main reinforcement is sitting on the cover block or the stirrups is sitting on the cover block? Which is going to sit on the cover block? See, this is your stirrup. This is your main reinforcement. Okay. Now your cover block is at the bottom. Now which is sitting on the cover block? Stirrups or main bars?
No.
The stirrups is sitting on the main. That is why whenever you take a effective cover, we say from bottom, this is the clear cover up to the stirrups, clear cover, the stirrups diameter, and then half of the diameter of the main steel. But in some book, they may have neglected this this one, the stirrups diameter. That's fine. It's not a okay. In some of the book, they may have neglected the stirrup diameter. They will take effective cover is equal to clear cover plus half the diameter of the main bar. This much only they will take. That's also fine. It's not a big deal. Is that clear? Whoever is asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Is there any other doubt? Anybody? Any other doubt to anybody? Anybody have any doubt? Please tell me.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, then we will continue with. So, lecture 17, analysis of T-beams. As I discussed yesterday, in a frame structure, right? This is the plan of a building or a room, plan of a room, where I am written a plan here. This is one end beam, and this is one end beam. This is the intermediate beam. This is a long side end beam. This is also another long side end beam. So remember, your beam can be directly resting on the brick wall. If the beam is resting on the brick wall, that condition is called simply supported beam. Okay. Suppose you have a brick wall on this side, and you are placing a beam like this. Then this beam, it is considered as a simply supported beam because it is a concrete and this is a brick work. So we consider there is not so much fixity between this brickwork and the concrete on this end also, at this support also. But sometime, most of the time, you may find beam may be directly resting on the column. For example, this is a column. Here it is a column. All these are column only. These are all column. You can see column is represented with a hatch symbol. So this you cannot consider as a simply supported beam. It is not a simply supported beam. This will be considered as a fixed beam because at this junction, the column and the beam will be cast together, and there will be a proper bonding between the beam and the column reinforcements. So that is why we will term this as a fixed beam. We will not. This is also fixed beam. This is also fixed beam. This is also fixed beam. All will be fixed beam. Okay. Whenever beam and column are cast together, we call that particular beam as a fixed beam or continuous. For example, from here to here, it is running over two supports. This one support here, one support here, this one support here. This is called continuous beam. For example, if I take a section here, it will be continuous beam. This support A, this is a continuous support B, this is a support C. Where this A and B are considered fixed, this is fixed, and B, this support, this B, this is a continuous support. Okay, and you may have a loading, and accordingly you already studied this instructional analysis, moment distribution method, slope deflection method, Kani's method. All those methods you may have studied to find out what is a fixed end moment here, what is a fixed end moment here, what is the moment here, what is the reaction here. Everything you would have already found out. So based on that you will design. But if they are giving in your problem statement a beam is directly resting on the brick wall, means that is a simply supported beam. Is that clear, everyone? Anybody having any doubt? Because they may not say you that is a simply supported beam or a fixed beam. Is that clear? If the beam is resting on brick masonry wall, it is a simply supported beam. Is everyone clear about it? Anybody have any doubt? Bhuvan, are you there? 17.
Yes, sir.
Are you clear? If a beam
Yes.
is resting on a brick wall, it will called a simply supported beam. But if it is resting on column, if the columns and beams are casted together at that particular junction, that is called a fixed beam. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now, as I discussed yesterday, if you take a section along this line, you take a section along this line. Remember, your slab will be put on top of this like this. Okay, slab will be covered, and the slab and beams are casted together. Yesterday I showed you a video also how the beams and slab are casted together. So when you take a section, your section will look like this. Let us say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Now this when I say 1 is for this beam, 2 is for this beam, 3 is for this beam. So this is beam number 1, this is 2, this is 3. On top of the beam you have a slab. Okay. Now if this is section at AA, if the slab is running on only on one side of the beam, for example, this is if you take this as a rectangular beam like this, if a slab is running only on the only one side of the beam, then the slab also will contribute to some of the compressive force or tensile force. So we take this as a L beam. Now here in this beam 2 is an intermediate beam. On this side also there is a slab, on this side also there is a slab. So some amount of slab will contribute from this side, some amount of slab will contribute towards taking the compressive force. Okay, compression resistance will be more. So intermediate beam is called T beam. Okay. So similarly here also this is L beam. This is also L beam. Okay. Any doubt in this one? Anybody? Suppose if you have 2 more beams like this, if you have 2 more beams running like this, now obviously you will have here one beam, here another beam. So this also will be a T beam, this also will be a T beam. Okay. Now you should know the definition of, as I told you, T beam, L beam and all. This is no problem. Now here, okay. See, this is a beam, and perpendicular to that the slab is running. Okay. Also on the other side also slab is running. Now, yesterday I discussed at the midspan of the beam, the bending moment will be produced. Bending moment produced is a sagging bending moment or hogging bending moment. Sagar, are you there? Roll number Sagar, are you there? Sagar? Sriram, are you there? Sriram or Sairam? I forgot. Are you there? Man with the specs. Why none of you are answering? You are not there, huh? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Who is speaking?
Pawan, sir.
Pavan. Okay. Why the other people are not answering? They are not there, huh? Okay, next person. I will roll number 44 is there. Roll number 44. (24) is there? 24.
Yes, sir.
Name, please.
Manoj Kumar.
Huh?
Manoj Kumar.
Manoj Kumar. Okay. So, in a continuous beam in the midspan, due to external load, what kind of bending moment develop? Positive bending moment or negative bending moment? Sagging bending moment or hogging bending moment? The bending moment diagram in the midspan of the beam in a continuous beam. In the midspan, it will be a sagging bending moment or hogging bending moment? Just by looking at this diagram, you can say. Just by looking at this diagram, you can say whether it is sagging or hogging. Look at this diagram.
Hogging, sir.
What do you mean by hogging? What do you mean by sagging? See, Manoj Kumar, you have to pay attention. Yesterday, 3 times I repeated. You were not there in yesterday's class, or were you there?
Yeah, I was there in the class.
Yes, you was there because there were only 4 absentees yesterday, and you are not one of them. So this one, what is the difference between sagging bending movement and hogging bending movement? (21) is there? Roll number 21.
No, sir.
Who is it?
Tulasi, sir.
No, 21.
21 is Pavan. I mean, Chandu.
Okay. Roll number 19 is there? Roll number 19. (19) is not there, huh? Hello?
Sir, yes, sir.
Who is speaking? Name?
Lalit Sidhu, sir.
Yes, Lalit Sidhu. There is so much background noise from your this one. Yesterday you were there in the class, right? At least in you were logged in. That much I know because you are not absent yesterday.
Yes, sir.
What is sagging bending movement? What is hogging bending movement?
Sir.
One is positive, one is negative. Which is positive bending movement? Which is negative bending movement?
Sagging negative, sir.
Sagging negative and hogging is positive.
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll number 17.
Yes, sir.
Name please.
Bhuvan Chand.
Oh, I asked you. Okay. 15 is there? Roll number 15. Roll number 15, are you there? Yes. Please answer.
This sagging, sir. Sagging.
What's your name?
Hariprasad.
Hari Prasad. So at the midspan it is? At the midspan it is what kind of bending movement? Sagging or hogging?
Sagging, sir.
Is it a positive bending movement or is it a positive or negative one?
Positive.
Positive. So at the midspan, sagging bending movement means your tension will be at the bottom or at the top in the beam. Tension, where it will be developed.
Bottom, sir.
Yeah. So if you see here, now it has bent like this, right? It has bent like this. Now if you see the beam is also bending like this. Now because it is a sagging bending movement at the midspan, your tension will be at the bottom. That is why your crack will start from the bottom. It will go towards the top. Okay, it will go towards the top. That is why your tensile steels are placed at the bottom. If you see section AA here, this is the tensile steel. Okay, and above neutral axis, these are all compression zone, and compression zone will be like a T beam. Is that clear? So in the midspan of the section, your beam will be designed as a T beam or rectangular beam. In the midspan,
TV, sir.
your beam will be designed as a T beam because your tension is at the bottom and your flange is there in the compression zone. So all the compression zone will take care of compressive force also. So in the midspan section, because it is a bending moment, is a sagging bending moment, the flange will act as a compression member. Concrete, this slab will be a compression member. So this beam at the midspan should be designed as a T-beam. Whereas here at the support, where will be the tension? Roll number 7 is there or is not there? Retained. Okay, roll number 6, Yosita. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at the support, your bending moment is hugging or sagging, or positive or negative?
Positive, sir.
If it is positive, what do you mean by positive means?
Sagging, sir. Positive
Okay.
bending moment is sagging.
Positive bending moment sagging and hugging is negative, right?
Negative, yes.
Okay. At the midspan, what kind of bending moment you get? Sagging or hugging at the midspan? At the here, this hugging. And at the support?
Sagging.
Sagging. That means you are not paying attention in the class. Just now we discussed. In the midspan, you will always have a sagging bending moment. And at the support, you will have a hugging bending moment, negative bending moment. You completely reversed it. So please pay attention in the class. Don't just simply log in and sit idle or pay attention to something else. Is that clear?
Yes.
Is everyone clear about it? Because in the design problem, they may tell you design the beam at the support. If you have to design the beam at the support, you will design as a rectangular beam. Here, this is the one. Okay, here the section B is near the support, where your this is tension zone. In the tension zone, concrete is neglected, as you know. So this is a compression. So compression zone is only a rectangular beam. This is a compression zone is a rectangular beam. Is that clear? Is there any doubt to anybody? All whoever is attending, around 59, 60 are there in the list. Is everyone clear about this, or if you have any doubt, please ask now. So once again, at the midspan of the beam, your bending moment will be a sagging bending moment, right? So sagging bending moment means the tension will be at the bottom fiber, like here is the bottom fiber. So because of tension, your cracks are developing at the bottom. Whereas at the support, it is a hugging bending moment, so tension will be developed at the top. So that is why you will see the crack is developing from top towards the bottom, like this it comes. So wherever crack is developing, there only will provide the tension reinforcement. So for section BB here, this support or this support, your tension reinforcement is at the top here. Okay. Whereas for the midspan, the tension reinforcement at the bottom. At the midspan, your compression zone consists of both the flange and some part of web. So this will be designed as a T-beam. But at the support, you have a compression zone only, concrete is in rectangular form only, right? So you will design as a rectangular beam. Many time in the interview question, they will ask, they will give you a continuous beam and they will ask this question. You will design the beam at which section you will design as a T-beam and which section you will design as a rectangular beam. Is that clear, everyone? If anybody is not clear, please tell me. I am specifically going slow because you are saying that it is fast, so I am trying to reduce my speed. So if you have still any doubt, you ask now itself. Don't tell later on that, sir, I could not understand. Right now itself, you tell me. I am happy to repeat. Okay. Okay. So this is a positive negative bending. Now, in analysis of flange section, I told you, let us say ideally what happens is that I will directly go into an other slide because I want to show some animation. Okay, so let us say this is a room. Okay, this is the one room. Let us say it is your classroom, where usually CE5 or CE4, whatever the number CE5. Now let us say this the room width is 8 meter and the room length is 12 meters. Right? Now let us say these are the beams that is there in this here. Of course, here there will be one beam here on this side, and this side also one beam will be there. Okay. It may be a concrete beam or it may be brick wall. Okay, here, in other words, this is one support, this is another support, this is one beam at a distance of 4 meter. Another at 4 meter, another support beam is there. At another 4 meter, you have another support. So you have, see, this room, if you want to put a slab, obviously I cannot put a slab for 8 meter by 12 meter without any support. You have to provide support. So I have provided a beam at the distance of 4 meters. So every 4 meter has one support. Now if you place this, you can place the slab like this, right? Now what happens is that this is one support. This brickwork is one support. This one, I'll take a laser. This brickwork is one support. Or it can be, in the frame structure, this also will be a concrete beam. This is another beam. This is intermediate beam. This is the intermediate beam. I am showing a plan. This is a plan. Okay. So this is a plan of 8 meter width, 12 meter length. And this is your one intermediate beam. This is another intermediate beam. Now, what happens is that how does, imagine you are all sitting in your classroom, right? You are sitting in the first floor. So wherever you sit, the floor, below that floor you will have this beam, and on top of the beam you have slab. On the slab you have your furniture. All the furnitures are placed, right? You are all sitting. So all the slab load will be transferred to the beams. Now if you take this, what is this distance? This distance is 4 meter. The distance between this support and this support, center to center distance is 4 meter, and this distance is 8 meter. Now 8 by 4 is what? 2. So that we will study in the slab, but just to make you understand. Now this is called one-way slab. This is called one-way slab. If suppose the longer length divided by short span, long span divided by short span is greater than or equal to 2, we say it is a one-way slab. If it is less than 2, we will say it's a two-way slab. Okay, that we will study later. But for now, you understand that if this is a long span, for this panel, long span is 8 meter, short span is 4 meter only. I am not talking about the whole room. I am talking about only this one panel. Okay, so long span is 8 meter, short span is 4 meter. Long span by short span is 2 meter. Sorry, 2. It is not 2 meters. It is 2. So this is considered as one-way slab. One-way slab means what? What happens is that whatever the load coming onto this area, this is one slab. Okay. Whatever the loads coming onto this is one slab. This is another. This will be considered as another slab. This will be considered as another slab. Okay. So you have this left support. You have intermediate support. Another intermediate support, another end support. Now this is one panel, second panel, third panel. Okay, and now how the load will get transferred from the slab to the beam? If it is a one-way slab, half of this load will be transferred to this beam. Okay, remaining this half will be transferred to this beam. So if you take this as the entire panel, half of this load will be transferred to one side. So for example, here half of this load will be transferred to this beam. And if you take this distance, total distance, so this is 4 meter, This is 4 meter. So half of 4 meter is 2 meter. This is 2 meter. This is 2 meter. Similarly, this is also 4 meter. So half of 4 meter is 2 meter. This is also 2 meter. So this is 2. This is 2. So 4 meter length of slab. This length of slab load will be transferred to this beam. Now here the 2 meter length here on the left side, the leftmost side, the 2 meter length of slab load will be transferred to this end beam. Similarly, for this intermediate beam also, this load, this half load will be transferred to this beam, and in this from the third panel, half of the load will be transferred to this. So if you mark it. So from the second slab, half is already transferred to this beam. Remaining of this load, all this half load will be transferred to the beam here in this intermediate beam. Is that clear? Is there any doubt in this one? Anybody? If you have any doubt, please tell me. Suppose let us say this is 6 meter. Let us say if this is 6 meter. So this will be 3 meter load will be transferred to this beam. This is, let us say, 4 meter. So this will 2 meter load will be transferred to this beam. So total of this will become 5 meters. The 5 meter length of slab load will be transferred to this intermediate. Is that clear? Anybody have any doubt? Why I discuss this one is you need to use this in this one. So here, as I told you, this is an intermediate beam. This is the intermediate beam. On right side also slab is there. Left side also slab is there. So normally, let us say you have a like this intermediate beam and slab like this. So half of this load will be taken by this beam. For this span, half of this load will be coming to this beam. Okay. Now let us say this is 4 meter. This is 6 meter. Obviously, this distance will be 2 meter. This will be 3 meter. Okay. Now, it's not that the entire slab will not resist all the compressive force. Your compressive force may vary like this, something like this. Only 1 meter may be taking compressive force. After that, it may not take any compressive stress. So that's why I put here. This is a compressive stress distribution. Your slab is going this length. I cut down here. This is cut down part, and only part of the slab will be taking compressive stress like this in a parabolic variation. So instead of parabolic variation, if you find the equivalent rectangular distribution, this is a rectangular distribution where the stress intensity is this much. That is called the effective width of flange that we discussed yesterday. Okay, so this entire B is the center to this is the one center line of the one span. This is another center line of the one span. This total length is called B. This is not effective width. This is just B. But where your stress is uniform, that distance is called BF. So here this is BF. This is BF. The center to center distance is B, and your BF should be always less than or equal to B. Okay, you will calculate BF based on the equation that I showed you yesterday. Your effective width of flange should be always less than or equal to B. B is this distance. Effective width of the slab or flange should be always less than or equal to B, which is there in the code which I shown you yesterday. See here, for T-beam, effective width of flange is equal to L0 by 6 plus VW plus 6 DAF. But in no case, So here you read. In no case greater than the breadth of the web plus of the sum of the clear distance to the adjacent beam on either side. Okay, so that is why the when you say of the sum of the clear distances to the adjacent beam means on this side of the beam, other side of the beam. That's what, like for example, if it is T beam, from the width of the beam, off here. Okay, so that is what. Okay, so that is one. Now these are all the equation given. You can, this is given in page number 36. This is given in page number 36 of your code. So this and all we discussed yesterday. Now please pay careful attention to this one. This is called flange. This horizontal thing is called flange. This vertical member is called web or rib or stem. Everything is one and the same. This vertical part. This is called web or rib or stem. This is called flange. Now BF is the effective width of the flange from here to here. Is that clear? BF is the effective width of the flange. F stands for flange. Okay, this F stands for flange. Now DF is stands for thickness of slab or thickness of flange. Thickness of flange or thickness of slab. Now this one, width of the beam or width of the web is called BW. B suffix W. W meant for web. Okay. BW is called width of the web. And from top compression fiber till the centroid of the tensile steel is called effective depth as usual. And these reinforcements are called AST, area of tensile steel. Is that clear? Anybody have any doubt in this notation? Slab is called flange. This portion below the slab it is called web or rib or stem. The thickness of the flange is called DF. The effective width of the flange is called BF. And this is the effective depth. This is the area of steel, AST. This is the width of the web, breadth of the web or width of the web. Okay. Any doubt in this one? Anybody? Naraju, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt in this one?
No, sir.
No. And what about Mr. Janaki Ramaya? Yesterday also he did not answer. Let me see today is he there or not? Ramaya, are you there? Hello?
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, who is speaking?
Yashashvi, sir.
Please tell me, SSV.
Sir, once again open that you have shown us 8 meters width and with the length of 12 meters, that example, sir, with intermediate beams of 2.
Yeah. Yes.
If the load is kept, if the load is kept, if more load is kept nearer to the intermediate beam, then also the load will be equally divided into the edge and this beam, sir. Or there will be any change in the load distribution?
No. So, for example, your slab will be like this, like entirely slab. This is without slab. This is with slab, right? Okay. Now, whenever you place a load, let us say you place a very heavy concentrated load here. Okay. Depending upon the position, either this beam may get more load or this beam may get more load. Suppose if your load itself is on the top of the beam like this, obviously this is the beam, this beam only is going to take all this load. But if it is a distributed load, the load is distributed all over so many kilonewton per meter square. If it is a distributed load, then it will be distributed according to whether it is one-way law or two-way law. That we will see in fourth unit. But for example, let us say you have a huge motor is there and you want to fix it somewhere permanently. So if you fix it on top of the beam, obviously only this beam will take care of all the load. But if this one is fixed close to this beam, then also more load will be here, less load will be on this beam. Okay. But if it is a UDL, means the load is like, let us say 2 kilonewton per meter square. For every 1 meter by 1 meter, 2 kilonewton is there. That is the meaning. Okay. In this case, it is considered as a UDL. Then it will be exactly half will be transferred here, half will be transferred here. But if you have a very point load or a concentrated load, depending upon the position of the load, the distribution will be accordingly divided. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I think already time is running out. So Rami, are you there? Are you side to speak?
Yes, sir, but I came upstairs, sir. No, full rain. That's why not.
What is that?
Yes, sir.
Yesterday also called, today also called 3 times. Just like if you put action, they'll call na Ramaya, Ramaya, Ramaya. Like that I'm calling you. You are not answering at all.
No, sir. Full rain, sir, here because our hilly area, sir.
No, I understood, but now sound is very clear.
I came upstairs, sir. Signal is not.
Okay.